Hello, friends. Today we'll be looking at Power Query in Power BI. So Power Query is a transformation tool that is available in both Microsoft Excel and in Power BI. So here we have the interface of our Power BI. This is our canvas. So to get to Power Query, you can start by clicking on Transform Data, and this will take you to Transform Data where you can now enter into Power Query. So this is our Power Query window, as you can see. But before we do this, let us get some data into our Power BI. So we close this Power Query editor window and go back to our Power BI interface. So we go to Get Data. What we are going to use is an Excel data, a Microsoft Excel data set, which I got from GitHub. So you click on Excel Workbook, and you scroll through. This is the data sets we'll be using. So you double click on the data set and Power BI will load it. So in the process of us loading it, we are going to go into Power Query by transforming the data. So we are going to pick these first two tables. As you can see, there's a lot of work to be done on them. And the second one. So instead of clicking on load and taking it directly into our Power BI model, we are going to click on transform data. This is going to take us to the Power Query editor window. So allow the data to load into Power Query. So as you can see, the data has been loaded. So the first thing is to try and understand the Power Query window. So at the top, we have the ribbon. And for the ribbon, we have tabs. So we are currently on the Home tab. As you can see, this is the first button here, the second button, which shows new source. So just in case you need to get more data. And these are recent sources. Here you can enter the data directly into a table in Power Query. And each of the tabs have a grouping. So you have the new query grouping, you have the data source grouping, you have the parameters grouping, you have the query grouping, manage, column, reduce, rows, sort, then transform, combine, and AI insights. We'll be explaining each one, the function of each one as we go along. But just to start, we will treat this table that we have just brought in now, and we will utilize some of these buttons that we have in the ribbon. So getting started, as you can see, we have the first two rows are made up of nulls. So to us as data analysts, nulls have no functions and they have no reason being in our data set. So we are going to remove them. So how do we remove the entire row in a Power Query? Well, fortunately, we have a button for that. And the button for that is remove rows. The button for that is remove rows. So you click on this, then you have various options. The options we are going to go with is remove top rows. Because we have two rows to remove, we click on remove top rows. When you click on that, it's going to give you an option of the number of rows that you are to remove or you want to remove. So in this case, we have two rows we are going to remove. So if you type in 2 into the box and click on OK, we see that Power Query has removed those rows. On the right side here, we have query settings. This pane is called query settings. The one on the left here contains the queries and basically contains the tables. So on the query settings pane, you can see all the steps that you are taking. So the first one is the source. This shows the source of where your data is from. Then your navigation, it promoted some headers. Then it changed the type of some columns. And it has now removed the top rows, the two top rows, which we just did. So, well, going forward, we will now look at the next thing to do. So as you can see, the header here is just computer generated, it's Power BI generated. You have column 2, column 3, column 4. But in our original data, the headers is this row in row 1 now, which is location, products, then the dates. So what we need to do next is to promote the first row as header to bring it up to be the header. So what we'll do is we just click on this button here in the transform groupings on the ribbons pane. So if you click this, it will show you some options. So what do we want to do? We want to use the first row as headers. So we click this and we watch the transformation. So as you can see, the first row has now been promoted to become the header. And on the queries setting pane, you can see that there has been some transformation, which is promoted headers. So the next thing we'll do now is to look at the data type for each column. In Power BI and Excel generally, in data type is very, very important whenever you are working with data. So the first column here is like the location of the stores. And this is a text. So if you click on the small button here where you have the ABC, it shows you the options that are available to you. So the content of this column are text. So we leave it as what it is because it's accurate, it's correctly imputed. So the second column is also text, as you can see here, it's been gotten correct. The third column is actually a date. Sorry, the heading is a date, but the content are the prices or the cost of the items. So we are going to leave this until after our transformation because we are going to unpivot these 4 columns into one, which is going to be our price or cost column. So the next step is to remove this totals column. In Power BI analysis, we can compute totals on the fly. So we do not necessarily need a totals column. So we'll remove this column. So there are 2 ways to remove this column. We can outrightly just go ahead and use remove columns to remove the column, or during our transformation, when we are bringing in data, we can choose the columns that we want to import. So if we are going to be working on a live file, that is a file that will be changing and will be refreshing, it is advisable to use choose columns. But because this is a static file, we are just going to go ahead and remove this column. So to do that, you go to your ribbons and you click on remove columns and just click it. It will remove that column. As you can see, that column has been removed. So the next thing we want to do now is to unpivot these columns. You know, it's difficult for us to do any major analysis on these data sets the way it is prepared. Usually, people that use Excel try to format their data sometimes in this way because it's easier for them and it's more appealing to the eye. But for analysis as data analyst, it's difficult. It's almost impossible to work with this because all these totals is going to give you headaches. So what we'll do is to unpivot these columns into one. So to unpivot, what we do is we do a multi-select of the columns. So you select this column, hold down Control, and pick the columns that you want. So we pick these 4 columns. Now to unpivot, we have to go to Transform tab. So we come here, you click on Transform, and right in the middle here, you have the unpivot columns. So let's click the drop-down menu to see what other options we have. So we can either unpivot these selected columns or unpivot other columns. So what we'll do is to unpivot the columns that we have selected. So if you click that, as you can see, all the 4 columns have been converted into one. So all the prices or costs of the products is now in one column, which makes it very easy to work with. So now we also go back again and look at the data types. The first one is location, which is a text. The second column is products, which is a text. And the third column, we need to change the date, the name to date, because this is the date for the transaction. Then now we look at the data type. We click on this and we have date time, we have date, but what we have is a date alone. So we click on date, we click here. So as you can see, it has changed the icon to the date icon. Take note of this. We'll also see it after we finished our transformation. And here, what we have here is money, currency. So we look at the data type and pick the appropriate one. So in Power BI, the fixed decimal number is what we use in representing currency or money. So it's currently on decimal numbers, so we need to change it to fixed decimal numbers, which is currency. So we click this. So now it appears we finished with our formatting. So what we'll do now is to go back to the Home tab and click on Close and Apply to load the data into this model. So if you click on Close and Apply, it's going to process and it's going to load the data into this Power BI report. So basically what we've done now is that we have transformed the data. We started by removing rows. We changed the headers as we use the first rows as header. And we changed data type. We removed unwanted rows, removed unneeded columns. We did on pivot to reformat the data. Then we confirmed the data types and we saved it. So here we are now. So if you go to the table view, we can see what we've done now. So as you can see, yeah, there you go. So we have one more transformation we ought to do. So where we have cost totals, we need to remove these cost totals. So we'll go back into Power Query by clicking on Transform Data. This will take us back into Power Query. So we click on the table we want to work on, which is this purchase overview. So if we look at it, if we scroll down, we will notice that we have nulls. We don't need nulls in our Power BI table. So we are going to remove this. And the easiest way to remove this is to just filter it out. So we click on this drop-down filter button and we just deselect null. So once we deselect null, it will remove null from this table and whatever it is loading is going to be without the null. So if you click on OK and you scroll down, you'll notice that the nulls have been removed. So this is a perfectly clean data set now. And all our data types have been sorted. So you click on Close and Apply. And your data, the changes you've made will be saved. And we are back to our table view in Power BI. So as you can see, the data has been completely transformed and it is now clean. Thank you very much for your time.